Hello and welcome to another episode of Tilted Pod. I'm your host, Seth. Don't call me Jack Wilds. And I'm sitting here with someone new, someone special. Joshy Kidd. What's going on, Josh?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good.
You doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah, how's everything sound for you?
It sounds good. It sounds good. It's a little loud still.
A little loud still? I'll see if I can fix that for you. But this is your first time rocking a microphone on the podcast.
That's right.
That's right. Why don't you get up in it?
Yeah,
get
I got to.
Get
I'm
real
wandering
close.
a little bit.
Well,
looking around.
It's been a little bit since we've been on, but we like to start off every Tilted Pod episode with a little bit of what we've done the last week. And in this case, we'd like to know about you, Joshy Kidd. What have you done, period, in Magic? Why don't you break that down?
Oh, well, I'm 32 years old. Been playing Magic probably since I was like 13 off and on.
Nice. So that was like, that's a long time.
It is a long time.
You should be good.
I should be. You'd think I'd be doing a lot better than I am now. But, I started, just kind of playing at school whenever we had free time. We were awful, didn't use sleeves, rubbed our stuff against the ground,
Scrubbing.
Yeah, playing with those beta lightning bolts and stuff, just tearing them up.
Scrubbing.
Yeah. But, and then, so then I kind of took a break and did things and grew up a little bit and then started playing like real competitively, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I'd say.
That's a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. What when was that? What block?
I think I got in probably around Innistrad is when I actually started.
That seemed like the new peak when everybody else was getting back in. That was like the height, actually, I can still think of when so many new players were just like flooding.
It was a good set. I mean, it was
a great set.
Yeah, it
right?
was a lot of fun.
It was so fun. Liliana's.
Oh, yeah. Love her.
I know you're a Jun fan here in Modern. Well, you were back when I first met you. So, as you know, you've listened to this podcast before, Josh. This podcast is mostly aimed towards the modern grinder, the busy modern player who wants to be a little bit over a hobbyist, but they can't quite be an all-out grinder.
Sounds like me, baby.
Yeah. So, tournaments. You play in the opens you can. You mostly play modern, correct, at this point?
Yeah.
Legacy?
I'll get in. I used to play Legacy a lot. I had a deck. I had to sell it for personal reasons, but it's like the best format.
Yeah, don't depress me. I agree, though. Yeah. It is the best format. But the people's format, modern.
For sure.
We could talk about that all day, right?
All day.
All right.
All day.
Sweet, man. Well, what have I been doing this week in Magic?
What have you been doing?
Not a lot. Been playing other games because I'm a loser. And no, I played a little bit of Magic Online. Thankfully, listeners who've been paying attention to my ups and downs of my Magic Online collection, it is now worth money again. So I'm feeling good about that. But Magic Arena Beta is in full swing right now. You can watch it being played.
Did you sign up for an invite? Did you get an invite?
I did not.
I signed up.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried what's going to happen if I do. It might just consume my life like every other game I start playing does.
I mean, maybe it'll knock Hearthstone off and we'll all be playing Arena.
That's my problem, though. I start playing Hearthstone for a little bit and then you get real into it for about a week and then it's just boring. So maybe Arena's going to be doing the same thing,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems so much better than Hearthstone, though. Because it's Magic.
Because it's Magic, and Magic is the greatest game.
It is the greatest game. Yeah. We say that every episode, and it is so true.
We have to trademark it and get like a little thing.
Magic is the greatest game. Tilted Pod says so. Anyways, this past week, I did get online to play some people and check out my collection and see what was going on. Played some games with lands. Still feel great. Still love that deck.
Still love lands. Locking them down.
So great.
Merit Legend them to death.
Yeah, didn't get in any modern games, though. But we have so much to talk about on this episode about modern because things are changing. Things are changing without changing. And so the first thing we want to get into is the banned and restricted list and how a zilch happened. What do you think about that? I love it, too.
I love it, too. I mean, it really is just heartbreaking anytime that, like, something gets banned. It's just absolute last straw. Nobody wants their cards banned.
Right. It's awful, and it's busted you up a couple of times. I remember when you were first playing, you were playing with Deathrite Shaman, right? And
oh yeah, best card.
I mean, now that's been a while.
Yeah.
But that was one of those sad cards, and people are calling for it to be banned in Legacy. Puh.
Oh, no way.
If they did that, it would ruin
It
it. I
would.
think it would ruin it. And I don't even like playing against decks that have Deathrite. But, I want to play all those degenerate decks. But Deathrite just keeps all those decks in check. It does so much for the format. But we're not talking about Legacy. We're talking about the fact that
Yeah, let's get back to Modern.
back to Modern. What are some cards? We asked Twitter, and we had a couple responses. Now, they're responses I've heard. They're common things I've heard. What would you think people wish came off the ban list or wish got banned?
Well, I know one of the first things people talk about when when they're talking about a card being unbanned is, and my personal favorite is Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah. Why?
Why it just is such like a it slots into that 4-drop spot. It does give you great card advantage, but Modern is not always so much about card advantage. Like, card advantage isn't fast enough always.
Yeah.
And so you're paying 4 mana, you're getting a 3/2 hasty and a free card, and a lot of times that just isn't going to be enough at that point in the game. And so I just don't think that the card needs to be banned.
I agree. I think, personally, I think it's a very fair. I mean, it's a 4-mana card. Now we can talk about a format where 4-mana cards are playable and good. It's not like it's not. I don't know. It hits so many things too, but like going Bloodbraid Elf into a Thoughtseize does seem like really gross, or Bloodbraid Elf, or it could be awful. It depends on the point of the game,
Right.
Or
It doesn't play well with counter spells at all.
No. I wish it would come back off the ban list because I think like maybe a really cool teamer deck could pop back off because of it. There was that old Legacy deck that never really was a Legacy deck that was Waterfalls, where you were just cascading into things. But I think just it might give some other decks some wheels. But right now the format's so open that I guess you could play that anyways. But what about Jund with it though? I mean, do you think Jund was that much better with?
I definitely think that Jund would look at it. I'm not sure. It definitely wouldn't
Where's
slot
it fit
in
now?
As a 4 of. I mean, it's definitely just never going to be. And that's kind of another reason, like, the best deck that this card would go in it isn't going to play it as a 4 of.
Do you think maybe just a big green-red zoo could play it? Or, like, not even a big green-red zoo, but maybe just some sort of very aggro, very efficient, just green-red beatdown deck would play it? I mean, it's haste.
Yeah.
It gives you another creature that could possibly,
It is all of that. It just that
It's still 4 mana.
That 4 mana.
It's still 4 mana.
So the aggressive decks aren't wanting to play that many lands,
Right.
to slot into a curve like that, and it's just altogether super fair.
Yeah.
Just
I see playing it with Noble Hierarch. Mm-hmm. That's where I see playing it.
That's
like,
probably the best
in
spot.
a rug build where you've got you got to find some cool. You can't play counterspell, so that's a problem. You're not going to play Bloodbraid Elf with a counterspell, but you got to find some cool ways to mix blue in there. I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's just green, maybe it's just green, red, black. I don't know.
Well, we are getting the
Naya.
Ancestral Visions reprint.
There you go. Boom.
Boom.
That's it. That's all you do. Yeah, that's literally it. That's the only reason you have blue in there.
Right.
It's just that, and then you can put counters in the side.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome if that came off. I wish it would because I never got to play with that in Modern. All right, so another one. A lot of people have been talking about this for a long time. We're going to go off the rails here with Jace the Mind Sculptor. I mean, that one's risky.
That is risky. I mean, but, we just got done talking about 4-drops, and this is another 4-drop. It does have... his 0 ability is something that Modern...
Insane.
Yeah, it doesn't really... There is none of. You
No.
don't get Brainstorm in Modern. And so there is the risk there. But like we said, a 4-drop card, it has to win you the game. A fair 4-drop card.
That's true.
And he does that, but there's just a lot of things. If we go back to Bloodbraid Elf, that's a perfect counter. And we could bring off both of them at the same time. It's, a buff for blue.
Yeah, a buff for blue would be nice, and Modern blue is probably one of the weakest.
Yeah.
Except for maybe now with this new Merfolk builds. But
Right, but fair blue is lacking in
it's
Modern.
lacking a lot. It's one of those cards where I think, again, it would be a super fun card to play with in Modern. But it's so powerful that you have to be careful. And I think they get worried about taking something off the ban list
Right.
and then having to throw it right back on.
Yeah, then
you know?
that looks bad.
And we don't really know what it would look like. Have you ever played Unbanned Modern?
I haven't. I've
It's-
always got real excited about it.
It's pretty insane.
But-
It's kind of ridiculous. But Jason Mind Sculptor is not the thing that you're ever worried about. Like there's some other much more broken things. But maybe I don't know. I'd love to play with it. I'd love to play like a tournament where we just do our own tournament. We make a couple of cards legal just to play test ourselves. But if you unban Jason Mind Sculptor, what about just going ahead and making the old deck come back? What about making Cobblade come back and unban Stoneforge Mystic?
That's another one. You know, we got Colligan's Commands running around. One
Yeah,
of the
so
best,
Battle Skull is not as scary as it used to be.
One of the best cards in Modern. It used to be, you know, somebody land a Battle Skull, and it's just, oh wow.
Yeah.
I hope this.
I mean, that was a haymaker.
Yeah, and now we just got so much artifact hate running
Main
around.
deck.
Yeah, and then there's that card that was just printed, a Braid.
Yeah, a braid. I mean, that, and if something like that started happening, a braid would be an easy, inclusion to be like, all right, I can run. Maybe though, it doesn't go to the face,
It doesn't go to the face,
and
no,
it is still
it's-
2 mana.
Yeah.
But
It's just a lot of good artifact hate in Modern.
yeah,
You know,
like just kind of like subsequent artifact hit. It's just not even like you're having to go straight up. Like by force would be a card that you put on your sideboard. It can remove a ton of art. It's really great, but there's no like collateral damage there. Like
Right.
where it Colligan's Command, obviously so many modes. It just happens to also destroy artifacts.
yeah. And
But I would love to be able to. I think Batter Skull is a great card. I think it's one of those extremely fair cards in Magic right now, though. That if decks in Modern are winning with that card, I think that means the format's probably pretty healthy.
and white is another one, like we were talking with blue and Jace the Mind Sculptor, where white could probably use a little help.
I think it could use
you
a
know,
buff.
And a Stoneforge Mystic slots in perfectly there.
Now, Stoneforge grabbing swords is pretty good in Modern, I think.
Yeah,
I think that is what Stoneforge would be used for the most. I mean, if we had Jit, I mean, Death and Taxes would just
for
be,
sure.
it would be so amazing.
sure.
But Stoneforge, I think in Modern, would be less about Batter Skull. I mean, obviously you would still run the package, but it would be a lot more about grabbing the swords because protection seems so amazing in Modern. It seems it's one of those keywords that is just, I don't think people think about it being as good as it is until you're playing against it and you're like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? What can I do?
for sure.
So, I don't know. It's another one I'd like to see off the list, though.
Yeah.
How about you? Would you like to see it off, or you think it stays?
No,
You're healthy.
I've always been kind of an advocate. My big things, I've always thought Stoneforge Mystic and Bloodbraid Elf were always kind of the two. I've always been kind of on the fence about Jace, but
Yeah.
I thought if you took Bloodbraid Elf off, that you could take Jace off too.
I
and they
like
go
that. That's
well.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Not a whole lot changed. Actually, zero changed. But Wizards has pretty much come out and said, we don't want to change anything before the Modern Pro Tour coming up. Now, a lot of pros are complaining about the Modern Pro Tour. They think the format's stale, or they think the deck, the sideboards are way too wild and decks beat decks and there's no coming back from that. There are too many polarizing matchups. But I think the fact that Wizards is like, look, you have some time to figure it out, and new decks are popping up with new sets as new sets are released and new strategies are being found that we're going to get into here in just a minute. But the problem is, you invest in Modern, you get worried about bannings. They've done a really good job at not doing that. But after this Pro Tour, are we going to see something gross and broken? And then all of a sudden they're going to have to be like, we got to ban some more stuff. I mean, what do you think is going to happen there? Are you worried about this Modern Pro Tour?
No, I'm actually really excited about the Modern
me
Pro
too.
Tour. It's definitely like Legacy is my favorite format, but we just can't get that.
Yeah.
We can get Eternal Weekend, which we'll talk about, but for the most part, Modern is where it's at. We get to buy our cards, we get to keep our cards, and so the Pro Tour is just an exciting thing. Now, as for if I can see anything broken coming out of it, I think isn't that how we got the Reanimator deck a couple years ago? The
Goryo's Vengeance one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
wasn't that like a
Goryo's
broken-
Vengeance came out. Well, Bob Wong. I know Bob Wong is the one who made it huge. Now, I'm not really sure. Yeah. You know what? We're going to talk about Bob Wong here in just a little bit for Eternal Weekend. But I think it's time, buddy. I think it's the time for everybody's favorite part of Tilted Pod, and that's deck list. All right, man. We are going to start this one off with the modern classic that happened in our backyard, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Dude,
Woo!
so you Reds fan, right?
That's right.
Yeah, he loves them. He loves
Yeah.
them. What about Bengals?
I'm actually not a big NFL fan. I love some college football. Like that's where, like when I watch football, it's college football. Go Bucks!
All right, man. All right, well, let's talk about Magic because, sports balls or whatever. So, first place, we've got Peter Toboggan.
Tubergen.
Peter Toboggan, he's piloting Affinity. Now, this is a deck I've come to love, really love it. Let's see if there's anything interesting about this deck. And there is one little weird thing. He's got a lot of 3-ofs. He's running 4-of Thoughtcast in this deck. And he's playing a Hope to Girapur.
Hope to Gearper.
Kind of an interesting card. Why do you think he's going two welding jars as well? Why do you think he's playing this Hope main deck? If you guys don't know what Hope is, it is a 1-mana, 1/1 flying legendary Thopter artifact creature. And you can sacrifice Hope of Girapur. Until your next turn, target player who's dealt combat damage this turn dealt combat damage by Hope of Girapur can't cast non-creature spells. I mean, is there a reason we think this is coming? It was showing up.
Well, I mean, like the biggest thing with Affinity is you got to kill their creatures and kill them fast. And
Yeah.
if you can't kill their creatures and kill them fast,
So maybe protect yourself from an anger of the gods. Maybe protect yourself from. I also feel like with Storm, so huge. I mean, you cast this guy on 1 or 2 on the turn that they're about to kill you. With Storm, you're like racing him. You're right there. And since he only has 1 Galvanic Blast as his only real removal in this deck, like, I feel like he doesn't have a way to deal with those bears that'll just kill you. So maybe this is just one more way of like, this is going to survive me. This is going to get me that 1 extra turn I need. That 1 more to stick it to him.
It definitely hoses Storm like that, though.
I mean, the fact that he's playing 2 welding jars, too, makes up for the fact that he's only playing 2 Midnights, and Hope is definitely a better card than Midnight. I think it's interesting that he's cut 1 Steel Overseer, 1 Overseer, and one Volt Scourge. That is not something I would expect you to cut, and he's not running any Etch Champions, right?
Right.
Yeah, he's just running 3 Masters of Ethereum. So I think this deck is cool. His lands only running 16. Running 16 lands. 1 Glimmer Void and 3 Spires. And he gets to run the basic island. His sideboard, we've got a Gemstone Caverns. He's all about that fast mana. He's all about cheating them out. 2 Dispatch, which I love. A Silence. Again, I think this is all about Storm. A Stubborn Denial, 2 Thoughtseize, a Vandal Blast, Ancient Grudge, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Again, Storm hate.
Storm.
Blood Moon, it's whatever. Eidolon of Rhetoric, more Storm hate. And then a Girapur Aether Hub and 2 Edge Champions. I think this deck looks sick, for the meta.
Oh, for sure. Like, I definitely could see Storm being kind of a deck that Affinity, if Affinity has any sort of slow start, then Storm just kind of gets free reign to go.
Oh, it's losing to Storm, yeah.
Just goes off.
I mean, you're both like turn 3 or 4 decks, but Storm is a much more consistent turn 3 or 4, and you have no way to stop them. So I think this guy did a really good job. Good job, Peter, for coming up with some innovations to make this deck relevant against Storm. In second place, well, he didn't have to beat Storm. He had to beat another copy of Affinity. This is Jan Alexander Chulnard. I don't know if that's right. I don't know how you say that.
It's a beautiful name.
But this dude is running a card I've been wanting to play for a while in Affinity.
Let me guess. Bomat Courier?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah.
I love me a little mailman robot.
Oh, yeah,
I think they are so tight. If you don't know, I'm sure you do. Beaumont Courier is a 1-mana haste, 1/1 construct artifact creature, and whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. You don't get a look at it. And you can pay 1 red, discard your hand, sacrifice Beaumont Courier, and put all the cards underneath them into your hand.
Seems great.
Card advantage.
So we're going to take a deck full of 1 and 2 drops.
Yep.
Play them out real fast.
Yep. No cards in my hand.
Attack over and over again, and then refill and do it again.
Yes. The only problem with him is he's most things in Affinity have evasion. He does not, but he does have haste. And I just think it's a good card. I think it's cool. This deck is opting out of running Thoughtcast So it's got to play the Galvanic Blast. It's also playing 17 lands, which is that's actually the average now. But
Everything, it just looks.
this looks like a pretty
stock.
much stock list, except for the fact that he's running that one of Bulmac Courier. I'd love to talk to this guy and find out what he thinks. He's running Whip Flare, Summer Denial, Grafdigger's Cage. He just doesn't have enough against Storm, though. This guy has no Storm, I
mean, he got through the whole day, though, the way he
did. That's how the cookie crumbles. Cookie crumbles.
I would kind of like to see exactly, because you would think that he would have been favored against the first place.
Against the Thoughtcast one. I don't know. The Thoughtcast might get you there.
It might. Yeah.
And he had double welding jar, so he's going to be able to block and set. So okay. So third place is Zachary Creamer. Real cool name, dude. Burn. What do you think about Burn, dude? I know you're a Burn fan. You started to play it some, right?
Yeah, I had bought into it online. Burn is a fun deck. Like it, does what it does. You play small, efficient creatures that attack fast and burn your opponent out.
Well, this is the 100% Boros Burn. There is no green in this deck at all. None in the sideboard. It is all 4 ofs in the main. That's a thing of beauty to me. If you want to play a deck where you're like, I know what I'm drawing, like I'm playing in my outs, I know what's in my deck. This is a deck you want to play. It can win out of nowhere. I mean, it could just win because it's consistently doing what it needs to do. The sideboard for this deck is a little interesting. He's running a lot of 2s. He's got 2 Path to Exile, 2 Deflecting Palm, 2 Core Firewalkers, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Smashes, and 2 Molten Rains. What do you think about Molten Rain and Burn? Because I've been burned by it before.
I have been burned by it as well. It's a good card. There's a lot of good lands in Modern that you need to take care of, or just altogether, that can win your opponent the game unchecked. And so, or a lot of times, it'll just catch somebody off guard. They cast a pact and can't pay for the pact.
Yeah, that's rough.
And that's the game.
Here's what do you think about this deck in terms of budget? I mean, I'm not calling this deck cheap by any means, but as a tier 1, and I would call this a tier 1 Modern deck in certain metas. And I'd say right now it's probably close to tier 1, maybe 1.5.
Well, for somebody looking to get into Modern, I think that Burn is a great card or a great deck.
It also teaches you so much about
It does. It really teaches you how things affect your gameplay and where you're going, and really the order of things that you play.
Right.
Because it's all, well, it's not all, but it's a lot of instance, and that's kind of something that people have trouble with, is when to play their
breaking
instance.
into older form. Yeah.
And then also most of the deck itself is lands and cheap cards. Like you have Goblin Guide and Eidolon that cost you, that'll break the bank. But
Eidolon is the one now. I mean, Goblin Guide after the reprint is not even that much anymore.
And so you got a little bit of money in those cards, but other than that, you got Path to Exiles, you got Rest in Peace, and you have lands. Like it's just a great deck to get into the format with.
I think it's really cool. So, and that was third place, and congratulations to you, Creamer. But in fourth place, we've got something, I mean, we got to talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
This is a very interesting deck list by Robert Mania. If your last name's Mania, you're awesome.
Yeah, this deck is manic.
This deck is manic, dude. So this is it's Mardu, but it's basically a Nahiri Emrakul deck, right?
Yes.
But it's got so many cool little things happening here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking Crackling Doom.
Yeah, there's stuff everywhere. We got Crackling Doom. We got Kolaghan's Commands, Painful Truce. I mean,
You've got the one
spells.
Damnation, 28 spells.
And that's not even including
It's just so many little one-ofs. So you're running 2 Lightning Helixes, but 2 Terminates, then 1 Dreadbore. Oh, I got to have that one Collective Brutality. Oh, just 2 Thoughtseize, though, because I need these Path to Exiles and Lightning Bolts. Some Fatal Pushes is like the only 4 of in the deck besides Nahiri.
If you want to kill stuff, you'll like this deck.
This deck is crazy. This is just, and Slaughter Games in the sideboard. You know how much that card pisses me off sometimes? That is a, ugh. So this deck, the creature suite is kind of cool in here too.
I do like the Kalitas.
One of Kalitas
is one of my favorite cards.
Kalitas.
Being a Jund player, it's just a necessity, and he's just great.
Well, Big Ol' Zombie Fish is one of my favorite of all time.
Oh, you can't beat
Probably will always
5/5.
be. Yeah. So Zombie Fish. Then you got that Emrakul, the Aeon Torns. But the one of Solemn or Soren, I think this is because he can kind of play this weird token strategy
He's
with
got
the four lingering souls. So that's pretty cool, and he's got a lot of value there with Collective Brutality and Nahiri, obviously. His land base, we got some weird ones in here. A lava claw reaches. I haven't seen this in a while. Like that's a weird. That's not really a man land you see that often.
No, it sure is.
You know?
That's going down to the shop on a Friday night and somebody breaks out lava claw reaches.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, what? So he does have 2 shambling vents, which I expected to see in this deck.
Definitely.
And 1 needle spires. So I mean, yeah, I guess you just need as much as you can.
There is not
one
a lot
ghost
of pressure,
quarter.
so.
1 ghost quarter. I find that 1 ghost quarter is maybe it's just a catch-all, little save land, little protect me from Blood Moon. Sideboard, he's got 2 surgicals and 2 slaughter games. So he doesn't want you to play with the cards you want to play with. 2 stony silences, 2 rest in peace. It's got white, so he's got access to the best cards in
Best
sideboard cards in Modern. Another Damnation, another Kolaghan's Command, another Anger of the Gods. I think this deck is sweet. It amazes me that so many Affinity decks got through this because it looks like this could just be like pick you off, pick you off, pick you off.
Yeah.
But who knows? Sweet deck, man. It was cool seeing that. Okay, this guy's name is even cooler. Green Red Devotion, Anthony Skizzer. Exact. Where did these people come from? Like really? Where? They got some awesome names down there in Cincinnati.
Yeah, they do. That's a definitely Midwestern name.
Yeah, that one's so Midwestern.
Skurs Pasic.
Skurs back. Have you played this? Have you ever played this deck or played against it?
I have played against this deck, actually. I believe. Is this the land destruction deck?
This is not the land destruction one. This is the full-on devotion one.
Oh,
so,
okay. Then no. I'm sorry.
It's kind of the same as Red Green Ponza, except this one gets to play Burning Tree Emissary,
I've seen that.
Utopia Sprawl, a lot of rampers, and then you get cool stuff like Chameleon Colossus, Rurik Thar, the Unbowed, one of the dopest cards of all time. Sea Storm, Get Screwed, Hornet Queen, Love, Craterhoof Behemoth, Get Wrecked, Scrub, and some Nissa, some Garuk, some other Garuk. I mean, this deck's pretty cool. A Primetime and Acidic Slime. How many times do you want to cast Acidic Slime at 5-mana 2/2 and just blow something up?
I want to cast Acidic Slimes all day.
I love it. It does have Blood Moon in the sideboard, so you can become kind of this weird thing. And it's got a new card, dude. Sideboard, Carnage Tyrant. Yeah, deal with that.
Deal with
that. 7/6 trample hexproof. Can't be countered.
Can't be countered. We love some can't be countered cards.
Love it. All right, we're gonna move on. Cool deck though. Emma Handy, bringing something back. Bringing back an old friend from the grave. Infect. You thought it couldn't be done. You thought in this world of fatal pushes, Infect was over. Well, guess what? She says Lightning Bolt's getting popular again.
She says Tom Ross is not the only one who can play Infect.
Yeah, it's a girls' game now.
That's right, babe.
Jay's Friend's Prodigy is the notable new card in this deck. Really think it's cool. Think it works.
I love any time I see it.
I do too. I love them. Right? A Dryad Arbor. She's still got that little sauce in there. So the spells. She's running 2 Dismember's Maim, which I think is important at this point. Only 3 become immenses because, well, let's face it, you just can't churn through your grave or your deck as fast as you could without Gataxian Probe.
Even 3 seems like a lot.
Yeah, it does kind of. But Blossoming Defense, really good. Distortion Strike, Groundswell, Might of Volcrasa, Mutagenic Growth. Now, this is how she's filling her graveyard. Like, I've seen a lot of people keep trying to play Infect back whenever, it kind of died, and they weren't playing Growth. I think Growth is just super important in this. You got to get cards in your graveyard, and you need to be able to save yourself from, other things. 2 Spell Pierce's main, and I really like this deck. 19 lands. You see anything else cool about it?
No, just looking cool that she's playing Infect and it's working for her.
Here's a cool thing. Shaper's Sanctuary in the side. Another new card. This is our second new card we've seen. Whenever a creature you control becomes target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. So it's got like a mini Leovold thing on it. 1 mana enchantment. That's pretty good for this deck to keep you, to keep going through stuff. Congratulations, Emma Handy.
I noticed she didn't have the what was the other enchantment that
what was that thing called? The wild something where it pumps them every time they're targeted.
Yep.
Man, I wish I Wow. We'll think about it. Actually, you know what? Twitter, hit us up with the name of that because I cannot think of what that is.
Help us out.
Yeah. All right. In 7th place, we've got Eldrazi by Vince Biomonte.
Let's just go ahead and we'll say 7th and 8th round. Eldrazi wraps out.
They round it out. This is a main deck Basilisk Caller, 1 Dismember, and 2 Warping Whales is the only thing new. This is pretty much your run of the mill Eldrazi.
Run of the mill giant aliens.
Except, again, we're seeing all these cards make little splashes in the sideboard. What about this card? Sorcerer's Spyglass. 2 mana artifact. As it enters the battlefield, look at the opponent's hand, then choose any card. Activated abilities of source with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So it's Pithing Needle. Or Pithing Needle. It's Pithing. It's actually Pithing. It's Pithing Needle, but it's not any card. You get to look at their hand. So it gives you information, but then you're also,
Information is always good.
And I think information is probably the most important part here.
I want to call it underrated. I don't know if it actually is, but
it depends on the player.
Yeah.
Completely depends on the player. So in 8th place, Peter Krim, and we're sorry if we're messing up your names, but I kind of like it's fine. The thing different about his is I think Warping Whale is now being official. I think it's so good. But he's got an Emrakul the Promise End instead of an Ulamog. Interesting choice to me.
I'm down.
Yeah, I like it. He's got a Crucible of the Worlds on the side too. All right. That is a classic. There's nothing else really. I mean, we could go over some other ones, but we've got a lot of more decks to talk about. And I'm really excited to get to the Open, aren't you?
I am.
All right. I'm going to let Josh, you're going to start us off in first place at the Open. Let's hear it.
And that's the the darling from Innistrad, everybody's favorite little people, humans.
Yeah. I love them.
Yeah.
We've got some new cards showing up in this.
We got lots of stuff. Let's go ahead and say there are 36 creatures in this deck.
Yeah. Okay. Just straight up suck it spells.
Which works out great because we have cards like Ancient Ziggurat and Unclaimed Territory. Is that the other one?
Yeah, that's the thing is we've got all these cards that are like, how many Cavern or Soul abilities can you have?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We have almost perfect mana.
And they're all, because all of them can do whatever. Mm-hmm. We also are playing stuff like, that Unclaimed Territory really helped, plus Caverns, plus Ancient Ziggurat, or however you say it. Then you get to play stuff like Horizon Canopy to keep drawing, so it's a spell and one. It's an Aether Vial deck. I thought this was going to be a Collected Company deck. When I saw it, I was like, for sure it's going to be a Collected Company. No, they're like, no, we just rather play more creatures.
Yeah, we're just playing 1 and 2 drops.
Our creature suite, we've got Champion of the Parish, getting huge. Noble Hierarch, making things huge, making mana. Kite Sail Fireboot. This is the new card.
Pirates
are showing up. This is a flying 1/2 for 1 and a black. When Kite Sail Fireboot enters the battlefield, opponent reveals his or her hand. You may choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, exile that card until it leaves battlefield. So it's a duress, kind of. On a stick. Mayor of Avabrook, we got or however you say it, Avabrook. You got to pump up your humans some more.
Get them werewolf, boy.
4 meddling mages. That is the sickest. Main deck gross. Meddling mages, gross. Get out of here.
Yeah, this is taking us back.
4 Thalia's Lieutenants, 4 Thalia Garden of Thraben, probably real good against Storm. 4 Manus Riders. Some people forget this is a human.
Yeah. I forgot.
3 Reflector Mage, 2 Thalia Heretic Cathar. Your sideboard, you get a bunch of cool stuff. You get the Necromancer, Zathard Necromancer. You get the Vithian Renegade, some Tireless Trackers. Is it Staticaster, Fiend Hunter, Anafinza? They're all humans, and they all wreck.
Yeah,
Either Storm Canonist.
Mirran Crusader.
Oh, I love this deck. I did not get to see him play in the finals. Did you get to see any of it?
No, I didn't.
I want to go back. I need to go back and watch it, guys, because that looks like it would be fun. And guess what it played against? The deck that's kind of unofficially becoming the new deck, the new hotness. You Are Storm. Scott Simmons playing Storm. What made it into the deck that's new? Well, we got those 2 ops.
Yeah.
But other than that, Storm is just kind of, people are just learning how to play it, I think. You've got, your 3 of Grape Shots, 2 Passive Flames, and he's not even running a 1 of Empty the Warren's main. Instead, he's running the 2 ops and 1 Noxious Revival and the 7 Bears. And he's chose to go 4 Brawls over 4 Goblin Electromancers. This is another deck that I think it's getting more expensive at this point because it's picking up in popularity. But this used to be at like $110 online. Like this was a really cheap deck for a long time. Gifts Given are starting to get kind of pricey, I think. Manamorphose can be expensive.
Well, even this Baral, that's kind of surprising. I would have
Yeah,
never
Baral's
guessed.
price has gone up, but you can play this deck like Caleb Shearer, the Storm dude, plays
yeah.
it without fetch lands, which makes this deck a lot more affordable.
Really? His
Yeah.
lists don't have fetch lands.
Nope,
Wow.
no fetch
No
lands.
Scalding Tarns.
Nope. Storm, I mean, there's not much I can say about it. We've already been
Yeah,
kind
we
of
know
talking
Storm.
how good it is. In third, though, why don't you go ahead and wrap this off? Because this is new, and it's been popping up a lot.
Old blue-green Merfolk.
Ooh, the Ugg Merfolk. They're coming and stomping in their Uggs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh, break off those new cards. Break off them green cards in this.
All right, so
set.
we have a new one drop Merfolk Shaman. Cumanus Speaker gets +1/+1 as long as you control another Merfolk or an island. And seeing as how the deck was Merfolk and Merfolk get cast with islands usually,
That's pretty good.
It's always on.
So you're looking at a 2/2. But here's
Yep.
the thing. Think about the one drop that you were having to play in Merfolk before. It was always the weakest spot in Merfolk. Merfolk was loaded with 2s, and you had those really bad one drops. Your Curse Catcher. Curse Catcher was never that good. Like, it was just a lonely 1/1. This is a 2/2 for 1. I mean, that's rate. That's going to get pumped. The second one is
Merfolk Branchwalker.
right.
Merfolk Branchwalker says when Merfolk Branchwalker enters the battlefield, it explores. And for those who don't know, explore is reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and put that card back or put it into your graveyard.
Yeah, so it's a pseudo scry.
Yeah, a little spicy.
I think this is really cool because it's already a 2/1 for 2. This is like your new Silvergale Adept, right? So it's either going to draw you a card, become a 3/2, which is obviously going to get even bigger, or it's going to, scry you a card. You're going to get rid of something and still be a 3/2. So we've got Cure the Great Glass Spinner, which was not a Merfolk, it's a spirit that these decks have normally played, but now we get to add one more new Merfolk. So it's Kapala, Warden of the Waves. 1 and 2 blue. Spells your opponent cast at target Merfolk you control cost 2 more generic to cast. And abilities, activated abilities that target Merfolk you control cost 2 more to activate. That's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
I mean, it's really good. So I could see that becoming... Now, they had to cut some stuff, though. We got rid of Curse Catcher. We got rid of some Master of Waves. So Master of Waves, since I guess there's going to be less blue pips, we're going to drop. But it's still not even that bad. It's only 8 green cards. Is there anything new in the side? Oh, yeah. In the sideboard, we've got Deeproot Waters, which is an enchantment. And whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with hexproof. Seems pretty good, too. That costs 3. This looks like it's the real deal.
It does look good. It does look
This
good.
looks like it had some things that just were necessary for Merfolk to get out because it's one of those aggressive decks, but it just was lacking in a couple of areas, and I think this kind of finished that off.
Yeah.
I mean, you just get so many good lords,
And Merfolk's always kind of like I feel like a critical mass type deck where it just has to have stuff on the battlefield or it is just not doing anything. And so any sort of additions you can make, and I felt it always kind of needed a different color too to kind of help
Right.
it.
And it's more fun that way.
Yeah.
And I've seen people try it with red. I've seen Blood Moon Merfolk decks. I've seen Chalice Merfolk decks. I've seen anything that they can do to kind of give themselves like this advantage. And I think this is just a better like beat down Merfolk. With the green in the deck though, have you ever thought like why don't they just try one collecting company just for a, it hits everything.
It does hit everything. You kind of got the curve on it. These decks, even this one though, with more mana, is now playing 19 lands. I think sometimes they played 18, but I'm just not real sure why they wouldn't go with a collected company. It seems great. It might cut the Master Waves and some other spots.
Yeah, I could see just cutting the master. You know, just. But the master's so good every once in a while. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't need it at all. You're right. All right. In what place are we in? Fourth place. We've got Ben Reagan, Ronald Reagan's son.
That's not true.
Yeah. Okay. Are you sure? And Counters Company. Counters Company is one of those decks that just we thought it was going to be everywhere. Then it kind of didn't show up, and now it's starting to pop back up again. People are finding the right builds. People are forgetting about it. And this is a pretty stock, what I think is the now stock. Yeah. It is running the Viscera Seer, Eternal Witness combo, so it does have infinite life in it, which is pretty normal now, I think. It's got double Walking Ballista, so you have more than one way to go infinite and kill them. You've got a Tireless Tracker, which I love. I love the one of Tireless Tracker, the one of Scavenging News. The lands are pretty normal, and then you get a bunch of white good sideboard cards.
Yep.
Ooh, here's a cool one. Farika, God of Affliction. I don't even remember what that does. Do you remember that?
No, it's been a while. Let's see. Indestructible. Obviously. It's
Journey to Nyx.
Yeah. And as long as your devotion to black and green is all that. So you pay a green and a black, and you exile target creature card from your graveyard. Its owner puts a 1/1 black and green snake enchantment creature token with Death Touch onto the battlefield.
So it's a little bit of... I don't know why you wouldn't just run a Ronus.
Yeah.
You know? I guess it's got some built-in creature card from a graveyard. So I guess it's got a little bit of built-in... Or Surgical. If they go to Surgical, one of your guys, and then you can exile them in response. I don't know. It seems fine.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem that good.
Maybe he's just trying to hedge the blockers or something.
Yeah, it doesn't seem great to me. But
it doesn't. I don't really like it.
Fifth place, Kenyon Collins, Infect. Infect is back again, baby. What is up? This one does not have Jace Vryn's Prodigy, so I'm kind of sad. And this is only running one mutagenic growth. I'm telling you, I don't understand. But guess what? We don't need your Twitter questions anymore or Twitter answers because this has got it. Wild Defiance is the name of the card.
There you go.
Only 2 become immense, but he's running some Rancors. What do you think about this compared to Emma Handy's version of this deck?
I definitely think that I kind of like Emma Handy's version better.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah, like I know we were talking about Wild Defiance, and it's only a 1-of, but with the fall of Lightning Bolt, that card just doesn't seem that great. You know, like it doesn't do anything against a Fatal Push.
Right. It does. No.
And so... You know, and then he's moved the Spell Skies from the sideboard back to the main. And
right. He also is running some 2 main deck Twisted Image. With if Spell Sky becomes popular like it has been in the past, that's an amazing card against it. It's also really good against Noble Hierarchs, and it's good against, your ramp. It's good against Devoted Druid. It's straight up kill the Devoted Druid, So I think this card's cool. I think this deck's cool. Here's a weird one, though. Invisible Stalker in the sideboard. So he's like, guess what? I'm just getting blocked. Yeah. 4 of. I'm just going unblockable, and I'm going to beat you down with pump dudes. You know why? Because he's hexproof, too. So I'm just going to load him up and kill you. I think that makes this deck... I put my seal on this deck. I remember playing Invisible Stalker in Standard. Now I want to play this.
Yeah, he's like going the transformational sideboard.
Just change it, and I'm gonna kill you bad. Wow, that's cool, man.
Attack for 20.
All right, so we are in 7th place with 6th place. Sorry, Affinity. Andrew Ellenbogen, Affinity. What do we think about this Affinity list? This is the most stock list I've ever seen.
Yeah, this looks pretty boring.
This is straight up, dude. If you're going to play it, play something fun. He's got Rule of Laws. No offense. I love that you play it.
He does have a Bitter Blossom.
He's got a Bitter Blossom and he's got Rule of Laws, but I've seen those. There's nothing cool about this. Moving on. Boring.
Here's one of your darlings coming up right here.
Eldrazi's and Taxes?
Yeah.
Dude, I love it. Why would you not like this deck? Path to Exiles, Blessed Alliance. I like the Blessed Alliance out in here. See, I was more a fan of not the black-white version. I like the red-white version or just the main white, and it's like big Eldrazi where you're actually playing Thought Knot as well, and you've got more fast mana. But this is like the classic,
This is I'm gonna lock you out and beat you down.
Thalias, Tide Hollow Scholars, Blade Splicer, just a 1-of because you want those Eldrazi displacers. and Flicker Wisp doing most of your work.
I did notice that this is playing 4 Thought Knots as well, and the Leonin Arbiters are in the sideboard.
Yeah, that is interesting. The Leonin Arbiter in the sideboard is interesting to me, but maybe it's just not well positioned right now. I'm not sure if that's the case, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I do love seeing Gideon in the sideboard. I love Gideon making his way into these decks because they're just so good.
Yeah, it's nice to get him out of standard. We all hated him in standard.
Yeah.
And then to get it, it's funny because we get him over here, and now we're like, yeah, Gideon.
Yeah. Get in there, buddy. You can do it.
Yeah, make some bros.
I think this is a cool deck.
I do too.
But Followed is the one that I like a lot more. Jesse Hefner playing actual Death and Taxes. Now this to me, if I'm going to play Eldrazi, I want to play that big Eldrazi that I was talking about. I want to play some sort of like cheaty, unfair Eldrazi. That wasn't that unfair to me. If I'm going to play Death and Taxes, I want to play this. This is the, a Resto, a Dismember, some Smug Copters in there. Yeah, we're going to play main deck Leonin Arbiters and some Selfless Spirits. You got all the Blade Splicers, all the Thalias. It's dope. Thraben Inspector and flipping Modern. He's awesome.
Yeah, Thraben Inspector is awesome.
Give me that stuff. This is what's cool. We're running Sheffet Dunes. Pay life, add a white to your mana pool, or otherwise just pay it, make it colorless. Then you've got a desert that you can sacrifice and give all your creatures +1/+1. This deck is all about getting those tiny little incremental advantages and finding ways to battle around your opponent while locking him out, doing his main game plan. With Tectonic Edges and Ghost Quarters, this deck is just super sweet. Yep. Mutavaults, and then you got all the best cards in your sideboard. You just get the best cards, right?
And you're not messing around with any other color or anything. You're just playing the best side.
Agreed. Completely. Best sideboard cards. It's just white, man. It's just great. All right. That's good, man. We just moderned the shit out of this thing. But I think since we just had Eternal Weekend and we don't have much time left, and we've got a Legacy Open coming up in DC this weekend, we got to talk about Eternal Weekend. You concur?
I definitely love casting some Delvers.
Oh, man, right? All right, so who took it down? Josh?
We got Hans
Gruber?
Hans Jacob
Jingleheimer Schmidt? How many things can we say?
Coming in with the Sultai Delver.
Sultai Delver. This is not the Delver I would expect, but I will say something cool. When you get to play Sylvan Library main deck, it feels good.
It does feel good.
It feels
One
so
of my
good.
favorite Legacy cards.
Why, Josh, do you think that Delver Secrets and Deathrite Shaman are so good right now?
They're just the best 1-drops. You can play and when you have them in the same deck, you can play this Deathrite Shaman that can just take over a game by itself. It does everything. It shuts down their graveyard. It ramps you. It does damage, gains you life. It just does everything.
It literally does everything. It's a 1-mana planeswalker. We've said it 100 times. It is the best. I think it's one of the best and most defining cards of Legacy.
Oh, for sure. I honestly, in my opinion, think that it is the best card printed in this time era of Magic cards.
Okay, I can see that. Some interesting choices in this deck. We've got 3 Tarmogoyfs. Yeah, because Tarmogoyf just isn't as good as he used to be with Fatal Push, and Fatal Push has now made its way into Legacy.
Definitely.
Tombstalker. I like Tombstalker. I like the flying. I like the option to have that instead of just being a 5/5 on the ground that's going to just bounce off the other person's 5/5. Abrupt Decay. Used to be a little bit more of, but now it's only a 2 of in this deck, but it's still uncounterable. So yeah, you got your Force of Wills, you got your Dazes, you got 3 Fatal Pushes, and you got 4 Hymn to Turok.
Hymn to Turok.
Now that card is disgusting.
Oh yeah.
The real interesting little doozy in this is the Liliana they chose to play. This is not the one that you would expect. We're going some Last Hope. We're going to get our creatures back from the graveyard. We're going to kill all your Delvers, or kill your Bobs, or kill whatever you got going on.
Not the Deathrite Shaman.
Not the Deathrite Shaman, though. You're right. That's why
toughness,
that 1/2 is what makes him so broken.
That
It is
2
what makes him
toughness
broken.
coming back to get you one more time.
Such a cool card. I kind of want to try this. I want to try this out. No Jace's main, but in the sideboard he's got a Life from the Loam, a Massacre, Spell Pierce, 3 Surgicals, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Toxic Deluge, 1 Dismember, and 1 more Abrupt Decay. Congratulations. The Legacy Championship of North America at at Eternal Weekend is one of the coolest things ever. And I hate to say it though, he beat Eric Virgo, and my boy is holding it down with Rug Delver. You know, this was like my first love in Legacy. I love this deck, and I still call it Rug Delver. But yeah, Teamer Delver, Eric Virgo. What's up with this deck, dude? Is it the Nimble Mongooses that turn you on, or is it the 2 of Hootie Mandrills now?
That Singleton True Name Nemesis.
Oh, you got to have one in there. The problem is you never have lands in this deck because you're too busy wasting them off their lands and then dazing them out of existence.
That's your favorite part, isn't
No,
it?
it's so fun. Stifle, Wasteland, bop, bop. This deck is running some cool stuff, though. Oh my gosh, I see a card that you're going to like to talk about. But 2 Spell Snare, 2 Spell Pierce, 4 Stifle, 4 Ponder, 4 Lightning Bolt, 1 Fork Bolt, because I got to pick some people off, a Dismember, 4 Days, 4 Force of Will, 1 G-Probe, I need information, and 4 Brainstorms. But in the sideboard, one of, first card,
A Braid.
a Braid. It did make it. You were exactly right. That's probably great in here. You've got your classic, Pyroblast into Rough and Tumble, Submerge. That's kind of the go-to for Rug. A Flusterstorm, an Ancient Grudge. Sweet deck. Third
deck.
place. It's our boy,
More Delver.
Bob Huang. Yo.
Said
Bo-
we were getting back to him.
Bob Huang is the man when it comes to Legacy. He's definitely, hands down, one of the best Legacy players I think that's out there. At least he's got the most finishes. You know, he's just
Right.
doing great. And he's playing Grixis Delver. Again, like we said, this is the guy who kind of came up with Blue-Red Delver. Like, he made it famous. He made it big. And he's half the reason that Treasure Cruise got banned. But he's playing Grixis. It looks pretty stock. You know, you got 3 Young Pyromancers, 2 Gurmags, 2 True Names. He's playing 1 Fork Bolt, 2 Spell Pierce, and then everything else is kind of 4 ofs. It's a pretty stock list. What do you think about this list?
It's definitely, Grixis Delver. I kind of wondered why there was no Fatal Push, but
I don't think you need it with just Bolt. He needs
Right.
he needs the thing. The 4 Gataxian Probe kind of blows my mind. When you're gonna run 4 Gataxian Probe, yet you're running all your Cabal therapies in the sideboard.
yeah.
And that's interesting to me. But I mean, I understand running Gataxian
this is-
Probe when you're running Young Pyromancer.
And it's Bob Wang.
Yeah, and he's the Bob Huang.
Bob Wang.
All right, in 4th place, these are a bunch of fair decks, dude.
That's where I like to see Legacy at.
Hanny Alamar in 4th place with Esper Deathblade.
Bringing it back.
Yo, this deck has been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
This is a Jason Mind Sculptor. This is a Stoneforge Mystic.
Umazawa's Jit.
Here's a weird one that I guess is now going to be normal, but Monastery Mentor.
A 4 of. That's
That was
hardcore.
not, when this deck was falling off, that was not a thing that was going on. This is sick. I think it's great. You got tons of lands. This is an extremely expensive deck. Just ridiculous. Ponders, Brainstorms, Gataxian Probes, Force. A lot of Gataxian Probes with these Monastery Mentor makers, with these token makers. You get to play some cool cards in this too, since you have blue and white. Council's Judgment and Back to Basics, the Blue Blood Moon. Pretty cool.
Yeah, back to basics always wrecks, especially when you're playing 4 and 5 color decks like I like to play.
Yeah. Which is what happened to Andre Stratsky, who got 5th place with Check Pile. Check Pile is a deck that you might know is just like everything Leovold. They're just playing every color. And they're playing Leovold, and he's really good. And they only play 2 Leovolds, but somehow they always have them on turn 2 off of a Deathrite Shaman. But you got Baleful Strix, so Baleful Strix is real annoying for me whenever I'm playing lands, and you just got that pesky 1/1 blocker that replaces itself.
Yep.
I'm like, God, come on. You got Deathrite Shaman, Jace Friend's Prodigy, Snapcaster Mage. This is the
Jace
best.
Friend's Prodigy. That's
Yes,
saucy.
this is the best Jace Snapcaster Mage deck in Legacy, I think. You just have every spell.
Yeah.
Even Night's Whisper. 1 Lightning Bolt.
If I were getting back into Legacy, this would definitely be
100% the deck you would play. Another thing is they run a main deck Diabolic Edict, which hardly anybody can deal with Merit Lage, except for this deck, main. They just can kill it. And then all these 1-ofs turn into 2 or 3 ofs with Snaps and Jaces. And then the 2 Culligan's commands, I mean, come on, that card is dumb. Why can't that
Yes.
card be over?
That card
hate
is
that
not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. It's
It is
always
here
going to be here.
stay.
Sixth place, Luke Bloom with Grixis Delver.
Grixis
Now,
Delver.
he is playing, pretty much exactly the same list.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going maybe a couple sideboard spots that are relegated to different. There's no Is It Staticaster in his sideboard. There's a Grim Lavamancer instead, and he's running 2 Flusterstorms over. Yeah.
Did he have any Tombstalkers?
Bob Wong does not have any.
No, he had the Gurmags.
Yeah, Gurmag goes in Grixis, and
That's right. The
Sultai is
Sultai.
Tombstalker. 7th place, Seth Black, Eldrazi. Dude, Eldrazi coming back.
There's your aliens,
It has
boy.
been gone for a while since Miracles has not been around, but thank God this isn't like Miracles, right?
Right.
But since it's been gone, this deck has kind of fallen off because this was a deck that could be Miracles. It didn't happen all the time, but it could. But it's cool to see it coming back. We've got Warping Whales, 3 main, 2 Dismembers, 4 Thought-Knots, 4 Reality, 4 all the big bad boys. Got 2 Endbringers. But the Mimic, playing Mimic into Reality Smasher off of Simian Spirit Guide is so sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sick. This is playing an interesting card, Sorcerer's Spyglass. You know why? Because they can play it on turn 1.
Yeah, they can.
Off of all these soul lands. So this is where this is better than Pithy Needle because they're going to get information and then just turn off maybe your lands. Can Spyglass turn off lands? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
They've got 1 Ulamog in the sideboard when they got to go big. Oblivion Sower, which is real sick. Fairy Macabre to get rid of all those pesky graveyard cards. I want to keep playing Eldrazi in Legacy. 8th place, Brian Koval, another Grixis Delver.
Grixis.
What do you know?
What do you know?
Now, this one is playing 1 of Tombstalker, and this is playing Snapcaster Mage, which is not normal in Grixis Delver anymore.
Now, this is a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's playing Cabal Therapy main, but it only has 2 Young Pyromancers, so that doesn't really go quite right. They're playing a card in the sideboard I really like, though, which is Electrickery. I don't think it gets played enough. I think it's a good card. There's too many cards that kind of do the same thing, though.
There is a lot of cards. It's nice, though. I think that's one of the cheaper ones. It only does 2 damage to everything, I think, or 1. 1 damage. But a lot of times, that's why that
You can
Young
target or
Peasy-
overload, though.
The Young Peasy is so good. It's just being that everything's so efficient, it's hard to find stuff that can deal with cards like a mass of tokens.
So let's talk about the metagame breakdown real quick, and then we're gonna leave you with our thoughts on what will do well at the Legacy Open and the Modern Classic this weekend. But the metagame breakdown for Eternal Weekend for Legacy was 60 copies of Check Piles, by far and away the most popular deck. It's what I run into all the time online. Everyone loves this deck. It's crazy. It's higher than Grixis Delver.
It's just a beautiful deck. Like when you look at
It's
this
disgusting
deck,
and I hate it.
You look at this deck and when you're this is coming from a guy like that. Fair rock decks just do it for me. When I played Legacy, I played Shardless, and it was a great deck. And looking at this deck, like I'm in love.
Yeah.
I just want to play all these cards.
That's 8.4% of the field, though. Followed by Grixis Delver, then Sneak and Show, Reanimator, Death and Taxes, Lands coming in at 43 and 6%, Eldrazi, Stoneblade. Elves is way down there. Elves is almost as low as Mono Red Burn. Infect is almost as high as Elves. Don't you think that's kind of wild? Yeah. Elves was like a very popular deck for a long time.
Yeah, I can't honestly think of why. Was Elves good against Miracles? It doesn't seem like it would.
No, it was not.
Yeah, you would think that Elves would be. I guess, though, with all these, there's a lot of kill stuff decks.
There's a lot of kill stuff decks showing up now.
Yeah, and so that's just probably a bad place to be. Like, I've seen, a lot of Toxic Deluges, Electrickery, so that's probably why. Maybe if we get back to more draw cards or something.
It's so fast, though.
Elves
is so fast when it wants to be. All right, so that's going to wrap up our deck section for this week on Tilted Pod. But we're going to leave you with what we think you would play. What would you play? Say you're driving out there tomorrow morning. What would you play in the Legacy Open and then we'll finish up with Modern.
Well, the Legacy Open's easy.
I knew what
I
you
would
were-
definitely play,
Even though everyone's playing it?
Yeah, I don't know. Just yeah. Then that's kind of the great part about Legacy is you can just do that.
Yeah.
If you have the cards, you can just go play what you want without really metagaming that much. But yeah, I would definitely play Check Pile, and if I didn't play Check Pile, I would definitely play Grixis Delver.
Grixis Delver?
Yeah.
I play lands in Legacy. A lot of people know that, but I think if I was going to this tournament tomorrow, I would probably play Eldrazi.
Eldrazi.
I really think that with all these Delvers running around, if you can drop that turn 1 Chalice, if you're on the play, if you can smash them with a couple of Reality Smashers before they can get through, if you can, you can also waste them. But there's so many wastelands running around, though. It makes it hard. But you're playing extra lands. I think I would play that over lands. But I don't know. I love lands, and I still think lands is really good. But against Check Pile, it's one of the most annoying things ever. When they drop a Leovold and you're trying to waste them out of the game.
And you're just drawing cards.
Yep. It's so ridiculous and so hard to deal with. And they have so many ways to stop your combo version that it makes it really hard. It's been frustrating playing against that deck online. I'm probably 30% against it online, but I crush everything else. So that's kind of a bad deal. So I think I would just say, you know what? I'm tired of getting picked on. I'm just going to alien the shit out of you.
Eldrazi
Yeah,
smash.
just smash. All right, and or maybe I'll play Teamer Delver. Or if I was gonna play a Delver deck, it'd definitely be Teamer.
Play Teamer Delver.
Deemer Delver.
Deemer.
All right.
It is.
So
Deemer
in
Delver.
the Modern Classic, what would you play, Josh?
All right, so this is a little bit trickier.
Much harder.
Yeah, I would probably play something like Jeskai. I think I hate Jeskai, and so this is purely just like a metagame speculation.
Okay, Jeskai Control.
But I think that Jeskai Control is pretty good.
So heavy Geist or heavy Supreme Verdict? Like which one would you rather?
I don't think. It's hard to say because I don't think you need Supreme Verdict, but that's a deck that can get overrun by small creatures easily.
Right.
And so that, definitely in the sideboard you need something like that. But for the most part, I think that Jeskai handles Affinity. I think that it handles Storm okay. And I think that it handles Grixis Death Shadow.
Yeah.
And so that's always my prediction. It always kind of hangs around, and it's a deck I hate. But I think that if I wanted to metagame and think that I could win, that I would probably play Jeskai. And I do like the Geist. It's just you have to end the game.
Yeah.
And Geist does that.
Well, by guy, I also meant like what's the spirit that I always forget what is it?
Selfless Spirit?
Not Selfless Spirit, the one that counters, and I always forget. Spell Queller. That is the name of it. That's dumb. Guys, I should get lashings every time I forget that freaking guard's name because it's great.
It is great.
Okay, so I think that's a good choice. Yeah. So you're still saying it's not the right time for John to come back.
Yeah, John. I keep having mixed feelings. Like it had a good splash and it was looking pretty good, but all in all, I'm not sure. It seems pretty meh against Grixis. I mean, it's pretty meh against Affinity. I feel like it's pretty good against Storm for sure.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's just not the right place I think to be.
Yeah, it's just not what it used to be. It's not its former glory. I will tell you what I would play, and that would be Peter Tubergen's list, the Affinity list. Now, I never like to say that, and I said it a lot on here. Affinity shows up, it crushes a tournament, and the next week it's nowhere to be found. But lately, Affinity has been staying at the top tables. I don't know how it's happening. It's like people aren't packing enough hate somehow still because they think they have enough.
Or maybe they think that it's just going to, it's just that.
Maybe they're thinking the exact same thing I am. They're like, last weekend it won, so this weekend everybody's going to be prepared
Right.
for it. No one's going to play it. But I think the Hope to Girapur, going down on your Steel Overseers, going up on your Thoughtcast. You even got a Teamer Battle Rage in there for that little extra push, the little extra win.
Come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then playing some really interesting, spicy sideboard cards that are going to confuse people, and they're not that they can't play around. And Affinity is the type of deck that can do that. It can play some crazy stuff. Plus, you're just gonna get some free wins. And in Modern, I am a fan of just getting some free wins every once in a while.
As a guy that has never gotten to eat lunch at a big tournament, sometimes it would just feel good to show up and play a deck
smash. You're so relieved, and it just like you drew the perfect 7, and everything works out perfect, and they just can't stop it. You know, I think it's awesome. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for us this week. Thanks everybody for listening. Also, thank you, Josh, for coming on and stepping on.
Me.
Nate is just away for a little while. We're probably going to have Josh step in here and there. If you guys like him, tweet out at him. What's your Twitter handle, Josh?
Reds Fan Kid with 2 Ds.
Reds Fan Kid with 2 Ds on Twitter. And you can tweet at us at TiltedPod or email us. Also, we're going to have some more stuff going on the YouTubes, like my grandma says. Also, check this out. Like, subscribe, or whatever on iTunes. We are officially there. We're also talking about having a supplementary podcast coming up that's going to be more about general nerdistry. How do you say that, Joe?
Just life.
Just life. But life when it comes to games. Everyday life in games.
Talk about the things we enjoy.
Yeah, just going to talk about shit we like. All right, man. Again, from here in the Tilted Pod Studios, we out.
Peace.
Well, I gotta get my key, so here we go again. Don't wanna wait like I'm riding in that county pen. And everybody wanna talk, I'm on a kick and scream. I don't wanna wait no more, I don't wanna wait no more. Yeah, mom. She talk about me like she never gonna say hello. And all them girls, they fall out of the light show. Now meet me on the street, so baby.